Be discovering what really makes a village. Oh, it's wonderful.
This seems kind of interesting. If you ever watched Under the Tuscan Sun, it was this kind of thing, but in Tuscany. Cute. I wouldn't mind living in a little itty-bitty village like that. What do we call it in America? We don't call it a village.
Over 10 million of us live in rural areas, and there are over 10,000 villages in Britain. Some are dotted along the coastline, nestled in valleys, or spread out along the plains. But what constitutes a village? Is it the village inn, the church, the village green, which creates this sense of a rural idyll? This idea was championed in a series of books that caught my imagination. In the 1930s, a small publishing house called Batsford published a wide range of books on everything from gardens to churches to villages. They all had one thing in common. They offered a picturesque view on country living. So almost 80 years after some of these books were written in a very different age, they now provide a yardstick to measure just how our villages have evolved and to discover if that rural idyll still exists. I'm starting my journey in the ancient kingdom of East Anglia that forms the well-known hump on England's eastern side. It's a place of unspoiled rural landscape, architecture and traditions. My Batsford guide chose to roam around just 3 counties here, and first I'm heading to the villages
Essex.
set amongst
Somebody
the
was saying something about Essex when we went to London.
This is for me is what East Anglia looks like. Constable country. Open fields, few trees in the background, and flat. But
where the sheep? Where the sheep? Across the road, the sheeps.
If only I could paint. Can't. Village England has inspired generations of artists. 2 of the country's most famous, Thomas Gainsborough and John Constable, were Suffolk born and bred. Constable in particular did so much to popularise this landscape. His painting, The Haywain, is one of the iconic images of a rural past.
It's already getting hot here in Vegas.
Who was also captivated by
my windows
villages
open
and countryside, and he's caught my imagination too.
And the fan is on.
Beautiful landscapes and illustrations of village life.
I can't take the
work
heat.
of Sir Brian Cook Batsford, and they graced the covers of the Batsford books. They are extraordinary. The blocks of colour are quite marvellous. And a photo of him doesn't actually look like an artist, but he's wearing a rather snazzy Panama hat and a bow tie. This one is fine. It's a place called Kersey. Kersey embodies what we all might think a village should look like. Many of its timber-framed cottages date from before Shakespeare's time, and the village had grown rich from the cloth and wool trade. In the Batsford book about East Anglia, she says, the roofs of these old villages are as quaint as anything else about them. They are all of different heights and pitches, and there is much variety in roofing material. The water splash gives delightful reflections. At the top of the hill, at one end of the village, the church stands like a crown, just in the place where a church ought to stand. I love that. It is indeed the perfect village, but it is becoming conscious of its beauty. One rarely passes through without seeing someone seated by the pavement doing a watercolour. So it's no surprise to find Dave and Vernon, who are often on this spot, capturing the beauty of Kersey. In the Batsford book, there's a painting on the front by Brian Cook, and there was a great big tree which dominated.
No tree, but it was very large and of course cast shadow right across here. This village is unique in as much as we don't do mountains in Suffolk.
No, I've noticed.
So this is as hilly as you can get. And of course the splash coming across the high street.
Water's terribly difficult though to paint, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, I thought so. But you see, it's all these different colours. That's what I find fascinating.
They're traditional pastel Suffolk colours. The pink comes from the white lime wash that they would mix with animal blood.
Really?
Oh my God.
And make it as dark.
Yeah, so The one behind us is a different shade to that one, but that's how it comes about.
That looks a slightly younger animal that was used. I don't know, it's horrid, isn't it? But this Suffolk pink style can be found on houses throughout the county. The houses were constructed from plaster, called a daub, which was spread through wooden latticework called wattle. The daub was made from chalk, clay, lime, even cow dung.
Good God Almighty.
If we came back in 50 years, I'll not be here, I'm sure you will.
I'll still be treated.
But yes, of course you will. Do you think it'll still look like this?
Yes. It's nice to have something that reminiscent of
Yes, exactly.